Hi everybody, the Mature Simmer here. So, believe it or not, I've actually been on here since the server was at 6 a.m. and I've spared you all the mulling about, figuring out what I was doing. Some of it was just moving equipment around, so I got that tanker put away and so forth. But a good portion of the rest of it has been trying to figure out, with precision farming, the potential changes I'm going to make. So crop sensors are something that to get a maximum environmental score you need. And there's two options, but as I've looked around, I think I really only have one. So I've had to do some experimentation, and I've done some of that, off in single player, because obviously I can't buy things and try them without, penalty here. I can't go back to a saved game and stuff like that. So when you've got crop sensors, you have an Asaria Pro and an Asaria Compact sensor. And so the compact sensors go on the equipment themselves, on the tractor itself. So that's kind of one of the downsides, is it's on that tractor, and if you want it on all your tractors, you need to buy it on every tractor. But you can use it on any tractor, and that's what's ultimately coming into play. So while I'm going ahead and getting this ready, I've got to lime the southern part of the field. It's showing up as bad. My environmental lime score is not terrible, but it's one of those that I'm going to want to go ahead and still improve if I can, because I'm at 14.3 somehow. I don't quite understand, but it's possible that things haven't reset in certain areas. I really don't know. But rather than have the lime work to do later, I just decided I'm going to go ahead and get it knocked out at this point, because I can. So, setting my GPS here. So going back to the crop sensors, so there's the Asaria Pro Compact, and then that I've talked about, and then the Active, which is something that attaches, but it attaches to the front of a tractor. And so one of the tests I did was to see if I could in fact use it on the case, because my fertilization happens while I'm planting, and I can't. So I'm kind of stuck, and the challenge ends up being, alright, I'm missing parts of the field here. Again, I think for the environmental score it'll work, and the little bit is okay. But, and the other benefit is that why I like the Active, I could move it around from one tractor to the other, assuming it could take them, and it can't. And it would work any time of day. There's a downside, I guess, of the Asaria Pro Compact, in that it needs daylight to work. So that means if I had a situation where I was running behind and I needed to plant at night, or that was the only time I could get on, I'm not going to get the benefit of the sensor. And the piece I guess I don't know is, what does it determine as daylight? Like, the sun is starting to come up now, but if I was planting now, would it work or would it not? And I just don't know. So, and I can't find any information, but the challenge then becomes, and I've done, this is the other part of the work I've done, is took a peek to see, because if you recall, I hadn't maxed out this tractor yet for my horsepower, and the Seed Hawk requires 450 horse, and that's to operate the main part that plants. But then I'm also towing a seed cart behind it, which doesn't have a horsepower requirement, but obviously if I'm using every ounce of horsepower to power the implement that requires 450 horsepower, say, that would theoretically mean I have less available. So hold on, let me stop. So this stopped. Again, if you're unfamiliar with precision farming, even though it's on, it stopped because so hold on, I'm just trying to make sure what track I was on. Alright, 3. So I need to be on 4. It stopped because you can see the lime application is at target. So I think I gotta go all the way down here, because I'm thinking when I move over a row I'm gonna have even a little bit down here. Now again, it may say, no, you're not far enough, and it won't apply anything, but I don't know, so we'll see. Okay, no, it likely would. No, this is 5, so hold on. Yeah, no, it's applying, so let me go back, because it'll clean up. That's the nice thing with precision farming, is when you're doing this kind of stuff, like now when I've done it and I need to go touch it up, it'll turn itself off for the part that I've already done, and I won't have to worry about that. Alright, so if I turn this on, you can see it's not doing anything at this point. So alright, it actually considered me done. So that's the issue, is that visually it may look like you need to do things, and now you can see I need an additional 0.5 in my pH, which is what the lime's going to do, and that's because we're on sandy loam, and when we go into silty clay, which is the majority of this field, sadly, it needs more. So that means I'm gonna be sucking up more lime on this field than I would otherwise. But you're gonna see, for example, up here, so now you can see I'm on silty clay and it's gone up to 0.875, so my consumption increases, and again, the majority of the field by far down here is silty clay, so I'm gonna have this higher consumption rate. Now it's all the way up to 1, so you can kind of, you know, if you're watching how quickly things are going down, you'll be able to notice there's truly a change. And so in this case, you know, the reality is what the reality is. You know, now it goes to 0.875, so you can see, even though it's the same soil type, in some cases it'll vary, because it can tell, you know, there's some variation there that takes me down a bit. And so at this point I'll take 0.875 versus 1.0 if I can, because it'll save me a bit of lime, and obviously that is a good thing. So I've got this one little piece up here, so let me just go do that. I'm thinking it will require some, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like there we go. So it did do a little bit and then turned it off. So my struggle is I can't get this tractor up to 450 horsepower. I can get really close. I can get to 445. But as I said, first off, it's below power. But next, the challenge is that I'm thinking it's not going to be able to then pull the seed cart and so forth. So this tractor, because it has the front PTO, or the front loader of any kind, would be able to take the Azaria Pro active, and that pulses with light periodically, which basically, creates the light, I guess, that's needed to sense things, and therefore can be used any time of day. Now, it is November, obviously planting season. It's not as if I do late crops, and even if I did, that planting is still like summer. So, to get wheat crop out if I suddenly was double cropping somewhere. But that means my only option is to use the compact, and so I guess I can lament about it, but I can feel good that I looked at all the options, because I did go through all the other large tractors thinking, well, while I would hate to yet again lose some money by swapping out to another piece of equipment, if I can find one that would get to 450 and could attach the active, I might need to consider it. The nice thing that makes it easy is I couldn't. This is the most powerful tractor that has the front attachment, and I need that for my mowers, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it really wouldn't have any benefit, per what I just talked about, to have a third tractor, because once again I can't mount the active onto whatever I pull my seed hawk with, is the ultimate challenge. So what we're going to have to see in the spring is, when I'm planting normally is a daytime, and given the testing that I've done with sensors, like, you have to press a key to turn them on, but then there's like nothing you see that shows it's really working or not working. So unless they've changed something, I don't know what I'm going to see. So I'm going to turn on the help menu just so you can see how it appears there. So you can see it appears at the bottom, but either way, you're going to see it even though you don't have the help up, which is great. And what I don't recall, although it would seem to be that I don't think I would have gotten this far with one load of lime, but that may or may not be accurate, because what I did find is, while you have to do one application in FS19 versus 3, here it's going to be versus 2 of fertilizer, which is going to be a nitrogen value that we'll see when we're using that in the spring. That there isn't less consumption. It basically consume the same amount as I would have. It just lets me do it in one pass rather than two. So it's a time saver, but in that case not a money saver. Alright, so I'm probably going to go ahead and run a headland here, because otherwise I got to go too far into the water. So let me do that. And again, like if I go here, see, it's not going to turn on, even though visually I've got a piece of the field not done. So there is a bit of that benefit with precision farming, in that it obviously says now you've covered that part of the field. You don't need to do anything else. I mean, it's not perfect, so like again, maybe that little corner's gonna not be credited, but I'm gonna go down this diagonal here because I don't want to drive onto his field, and of course I run out of material, so let me go refill. So yeah, so that's the dilemma, and in the end I don't have a choice. So it's like I'm not going to go to a smaller planter and take more time. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing, and I haven't done any research on this because there's really a option at this point, unless I went completely insane and bought a self-propelled sprayer, but I don't think that's going to make sense. But I'll have to evaluate based on the working with, because I think the working with is smaller than what I have now. But to use something with See and Spray technology, there's one option available. So I would have to change out my sprayer to a John Deere that comes with Precision Farming, and that would be what I need to use. So so that's where I'm at, but obviously I don't have to worry about some of that, and I really don't have to worry about those purchases until the spring. So I've got a few more months where I can not spend money, which in the end it doesn't entirely matter that much, because it's not as if I'm going to have income coming in potentially. I mean, I could, I guess, try to sell other crop. Still waiting for my wheat to be processed, so I haven't gotten the funds from that. But yeah, that's kind of what we've got. So it's interesting. Yeah, if I was to put stuff down, but that's because it's sandy loam, so it's not that interesting. I'm like, there's only a little that I need here, but it makes more sense now. So, trying to think about the other piece. Oh, I was looking at the sell price of milk, and I keep forgetting that compared to the way I tend to operate in other pieces, which is just, kind of the startup mode, so it's also quote unquote easy mode in the game. I think milk used to be up around 2,000 per 1,000 liters, and so I was a little stunned to see that it's 600 here if I was to sell on the server. Now, what I didn't look at was direct sell, so it's possible that carting it off the map will at least get me over 1,000. I don't know, but the other piece that I was debating was, do I go ahead and just put in a dairy right away, because then I can get more profit. Okay, I guess, did I already do 6? I really didn't think I did 6, but this is seeming to tell me that I did, so I'm gonna assume it's not lying, and I'll just get going on 7. Alright, so because the dairy would cost 80,000, and butter and cheese, which is really the products I'd be able to make there, are about 800 or 900, I think, for the butter, and then it was like 1,600 for the cheese at kind of the maximum levels. So if I'm selling at other times of the year, I could be lower than that, but obviously the logic is it's probably higher than the milk. The other difficulty I have with that is obviously that is going to be something that I'm going to again be loading pallets with, but although I guess you could put them on distribution, and then it would just sell them at whatever price it's selling them at. I definitely start to lose the clarity of income at that point to really be able to determine what makes sense, other than I'm just generally seeing, hey, I'm selling things for a higher value. But the other piece I'm not sure of is I'm still a little leery about, once I'm full of cows, is it going to be sustainable? So I guess what is causing my hesitation right now is I keep telling myself, patience is a virtue. Try to just wait it out and act on data rather than assumption. Because if I suddenly find out I can't sustain with this barn, that turns into a different issue as well. So then I need to replace it, do something else, and I don't know that I would do that, because then that takes me back to the land of TMR. But it just seems like I would be short on an hourly basis, which would mean I'd need something else to actually keep the cows fed. Now, once again, it may play out that it just consumes all of it, and it needs to be running all the time, otherwise they don't have enough food. But if I'm suddenly dropping 50 liters every hour to the point where then I'm empty, I don't know what I can do then at that point. Obviously I could explore options, but the only option would be to somehow create TMR some other way, and the only other way is to put in a mixer, which then means I'm transporting things. Now, it's not doable. I mean, I can do that. It's the same inputs as what I have to the robotic barn, and then I would just have to move product over. The problem was it's got a very low area you can drive into to get things out of, and so I ended up having to buy a TMR mixer in the one place I've played with it, because the trailers themselves don't fit underneath, and you can't pull in and get the TMR to unload. Now, as I'm thinking that through, I have an option here in that for what I'm using now, the lime, to fill that silo, I need to use an auger. So that auger is present on the farm. So in theory, I could probably put the auger underneath the opening and then fill a truck that isn't underneath. I'm just not sure that all the triggers would interact appropriately if I did that. So that would be a complete experiment, but obviously that could be done if I needed to. And so, that produces 44,000, and so it becomes one of those if I'm short 50 or 100 an hour, obviously 44,000 is gonna last a while, even at that pace. So, it'd be 440 hours, I guess, even at 100, unless I'm doing it wrong. I mean, it's more than 44, so, I think, I don't know. It's too early for me to be doing that kind of math while I'm also trying to talk and not leave you with dead air. So, so those are the things I've been contemplating today, and that I've been a little bit worried about. But to get some sense of accomplishment, and since I was on here, and after days and days of hectic activity, I've felt, well, let me do this. The other thing, the grass is growing. The field info has now reappeared now that it's stage 2 of 3, so maybe because it was just harvested, it's in that, I guess the harvested state won out in the field info over growing 1 of 3. It's just, I think without precision farming it was showing me both, and with it, for some reason, it doesn't. But now that it's in the growing stage, it does. So, my panic about somehow grass is different has worked, but walking the fields this morning, which is how I determined that this needed lime, because as I was walking here, it was red and bad, where it's okay, I think, in other places. The nitrogen says it's perfect in the area that the grass is growing, and that basically I'm going to get 93% yield compared to a maximum of 100. And once again, that I think has something to do with rolling, and I'm not suddenly going to start rolling again to get a little bit more, but you know, if I can get 93% compared to 100 and I just have a 7% drop but don't have to fertilize and my environmental score potentially stays up, I may be okay. The issue may be the environmental score, but if I'm losing 15, say, and that's all I'm losing, I don't know that eking out that little bit's going to be worth it, because I think it's going to be at best a 1 or 2% increase in sale price, and that's not going to offset the thousands of dollars of fertilizer plus the time that I need to get that done. We're going to run out of lime here again. I'm trying to remember if I can actually finish this field with what I have in the silo, and I don't remember. But in any event, that's for me to deal with. I've given you the update for today. And yeah, the only other thing I did, and again, it's not terribly exciting, it's literally like entering stuff in an accounting system at your office, so not really something that I felt, oh gee, I need to capture this on video. But I mentioned in FSN, you know, we've got to go ahead, and when we have equipment, we have to enter it in a system so that they know what equipment we have on the server and so forth. So I've gone ahead and done that for making sure that everything's up to date with all the new equipment changes we got and so forth. Oops, I think I pulled too far. Okay. I don't know what's happening. But I guess it doesn't matter what's happening. No, I didn't pull far enough. So as you can see, I'm already, you know, I had 100,000 or whatever. I'm down to 62 already, so this will take me below half left, and I don't know. I mean, I can always go buy lime in the trailer here and not refill this, but you know, I'll refill it at some point in the off season, but not refill it in the cycle here. So it's not like I can't get it done, but we'll see. So that's been updated as well. So everything's up to snuff. I've got my cow permit running. I think I did it for 3 sessions, which basically means 36 days, because you're paying for 12 days each time. So cows are just like swine. They're 10,000 to start and then 8,000 to renew. So it was a total of what, 26,000 to do it for 36 days, and then as long as I don't let it expire, it's just, you know, going to be 8,000 for every 12 days, which means, you know, it's less than 1,000 a day. So I need to at least be producing that to just cover my permits, let alone what I need to do on this end. You know, the nice thing, once again, is other than the straw, arguably, if I don't have to fertilize the grass, basically the silage and the hay are virtually free at this point. So, because I just have to, you know, I mean, obviously I'm burning gas, I'm doing maintenance. You know, I just, on my case, for example, I just paid $56,000 to repair it. So that's part of the reason there's a lot of money gone. There's not other pieces of equipment that you haven't seen me buy or something. It's just repairing equipment on the farm. So kind of everything's up to snuff. believe it or not, this tractor was repaired before I started doing this, so it actually may be the, now that I think about it, it might not be that the tractor's taken that much. I did not take the spreader over, and my guess is the spreader's in deep need of maintenance. So that's probably what's pulling me down there. So kind of scratch the concern. But, oh goodness, 1.125. So this is getting worse. Thank goodness it was just a little bit. Hopefully it stays a little bit. I was going to say I saw a little change in the color in the map down there, so it's actually for the good, which is great. But, so yeah, so that's kind of where we're at, but I'd be lying if I didn't share that, yes, I'm feeling a little nervous on the financial situation now that the milk is not as profitable. Like in my head when I was like, oh yeah, I'll do cows because I'm going to be able to do 2,000 a liter in milk. That's what I had in my brain, and I'm like, you know, this will be a no-brainer, it'll be great. And, you know, part of the issue with FSN is part of that realism and so forth, is the servers run on the hard mode in Farming Simulator, which means all the prices are that way, they're hard. So prices and costs, you know, the costs are kind of as high as they would be, and the sale prices are as low as they can be. So that's why it's usually, I think, maybe a third of what it is at the easy level. So that would make sense, instead of being like 1,800 for milk, which I'm sure is what it really was at, 1,600 to 1,800. It's just my brain rounded it up to 2,000, and you know, now we're at 600 or so, and I think we're kind of at the max point now in November, so I don't know that it would go much higher. It's just direct sell, I might be able to get a little bit more. So I'm guessing it's not that it's not going to make money. And I think once we have more cows and we produce more milk, because right now my challenge too is like I've only produced 18,000 liters of milk right now, and you know, that's in 2 months. So a lot of time has passed, but you know, if we kind of round it down to 500, I've got $9,000 in milk for 2 months. So that's not a lot, but you know, that may change. And then once again, because the only piece that theoretically has significant cost to it, because I have to plant grain to get straw, you know, as we saw, we get well over $1 million off this field just in one crop. So then that gives us quote unquote free straw after that. And we also know that the crops are in essence self-sustaining. It's not that I've ever planted a crop here and lost money with the supplies I have to put into it, because it's usually $30,000 to $50,000 depending on the seed variations and so forth. And again, this will shift some potentially because of precision farming, especially if I do the see and spray technology on the herbicide, which I'm pretty sure I will. So you know, we'll see how that goes, but you know, we spend 30 to 50 and then we're usually getting 150 to 200. So we're slowly making profit. It just, looking at my lifetime farm earnings, I'm back in that situation where, wow, I was making a lot of money in Seneca, and my years here in Shellbrook have frankly been, well, they've not been anywhere near as lucrative, but I don't think I've lost money, but it's been close, honestly. So, and some of that may simply be because of the decision to run a smaller operation, to have time to actually do it, because there I had more time and I was able to run the full 110 acres I had almost every year. So yeah, I was single cropping everything, but I had a lot of fields to deal with, and so I would regularly be generating 300 to 500,000 in profit a year, and here I'm getting maybe 200. So and that's on the best years. And there's several years in Shellbrook that have been negative. So, and some of that, we do have to be honest, from a finance analysis standpoint, some of that is because I've got a ton of crop sitting in my silos. So I've got a lot of crop where I basically, or a lot of years where I just put money in and I didn't see any money back out, even though to some degree I did with the swine. But the animals weren't being tracked in there. I may go back and clean things up there once I kind of get into figuring out how I'm going to do things with the cows. But that's why, once again, you know, if I've got to do other pieces that I can't track, where if I'm selling through a dairy, for example, and I'm not manually moving it, and I'm just letting it sell, like, I don't know what the sell price is, and so it's harder to explain, and it's also going to be harder to track. So anyway, I've been going on and on, kind of talking and sharing the brain dump for a while. I'm going to get this field done, and I'll see you next time.